There's no such a thing as a perfect trout fly. Title of this file here is kind of misleading, but I got to get attention somehow or the other. I'm just kidding. This is my rendition, ladies and gentlemen, of an Adams dry fly. This is my third attempt at this. I've had a lot of trouble with focus and whatnot have you. I'm having to work inside today because it's a real crappy day up here in Montana. But anyway, getting on to this thing right here, starting right off the get-go here, this area of an Adams right here is called a post-up, and most Adamses are made out of calf tail on that post-up, if you will. You can use synthetic material. There's a whole bunch of them out there, high-vis and whatnot have you. But the point that I want to get at, to keep the proportions right on this fly or have it come out right, you need to put this post-up in here, if you will, 1/3 the way down the shank of the hook and back of that eye of the hook. It just works out better when you're wrapping the hackle around and tying off your head and whatnot have you like that. Okay, moving along here. This hackle, of course, on an Adams, the standard colors are Coachman Brown and Grizzly hackle, if you will, mixed. But if you start off with a hackle that you can't use a full hackle, the stem is too thick at the base of the hackle. What you have to do is only use about 1/2 of a select hackle and use the tip of the hackle because it'll wrap up on that post up so much better. Let me turn this fly a little bit so you understand what I'm talking about. And this circular area of hackle barbules that you'll see right here on an Adams, this is what causes it to float so well. This is a fisheye view, if you will. If I can keep this jobber in focus. This is what the fish are looking at right there. And while I've got this in focus, you might want to pay particular attention to this body right here. On my Adamses, on my rendition, my idea of a perfect Adams is down here at the bend of the hook. I start and make that body thinner than it is up here in this thorax area. In other words, you need a tapered body from thin to thicker up, and like I say, the thorax up towards the head. Now moving on to this tail, of course this is a Grizzly hackle and brown hackle mixed. And I like to make the hackle a little bit longer, or maybe not longer if you say, but I definitely do use my fair share of hackle in here like this, hackle fibers. But I like to get a few wraps of 6/0 in behind or underneath this tail to kind of lift it up a little bit. Let me turn this fly so you can see that. So that the tail is lifted up and it's split. I think that the fly looks much buggier that way. And also on this body right here, the original recipe for Adams is called for dove muskrat fur. I have discovered through many years of tying that polypropylene yarn, poly yarn that comes in strands, works much better because you don't have to dub. You can taper this body so much easier, and you can tease this polypropylene, if you will, with a dubbing tool. And so up here in Montana, I have a tendency to hackle very heavily, as you can see on this fly. This is a good floater. Here, once again, you got a fisheye view of this fly, and it sits in the water like this, if you will, and it floats very, very well until it gets saturated. And I might want to add too that on this post up, you can use different colors of calf's tail. We got synthetic material out there that works. However, I've always preferred either light gray calf's tail, if you will, or light blue dun. The original Adams calls for a white calf tail, but I think There's very few insects out here, if you will, that have perfectly white wings. There's a few, but let me roll this around for you. Like I say, this is just my idea, if you will, of a perfect Adams, but I have been tying these for quite a few years. And what you have to do with this particular pattern right here is practice, practice, practice. And I don't know if I said this before, but on this post up, this needs to be set back. When you put this calf tail in here, 1/3 the distance of the shank from the eye towards the back. Yeah, because if you put that post up too close to the eye, you're going to be crowding the eye of the hook. It makes it difficult to tie off the hackle and whatnot have you, and it's gonna plug up that eye. So I decided to show off this pattern here. It has done very well for me over the years. Adams Parachute, ladies and gentlemen. Never go fishing without this guy, because this particular pattern right here can mimic caddises in certain situations, mayflies in certain situations, drakes and like that. It's a very versatile fly, and I use it quite a bit. This particular specimen here is tied up on a number 12 1X long hook.